Good afternoon. My name is Buddy Thornton. I'm with Liberty University. Today we're going to be talking about interpersonal communications, and because this is a class project, we're going to use my personal assessments and my version of interpersonal communications, how it works in my world. The first thing we really want to look at is we want to look at my overarching goal. My overarching goal is to utilize level 1 listening skills, totally involved active listening skills, to engage my peers, my family, clients, friends, whoever I interact with, in meaningful dialogue to enhance their world experience. This is a very dynamic procedure. To do that, you have to use a process called enlarging the conversation. When you enlarge the conversation, what you are basically doing is you are getting people to be involved in the conversation, being interactive. You want them to actively listen themselves. You want them to next into the conversation. You want them to always be proceeding to the next step, which allows you to enlarge the conversation and cover the topic as widely as you possibly can. Some of the reasons why we enlarge the conversation is to get us to an area where we understand each other more fully. In one of the texts, Stewart defined interpersonal communications as continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. Meaning that even if you're not talking, someone is watching your body language, they're getting an idea of what you're talking about or how you feel about the subject. Burley Allen, on the other hand, he considers communication part of the socialization process. He has a definition for what he calls okayness. It's based within the drama triangle of how people interact with each other and the subject matter. And to go through that, you have to look at the process of I'm okay, you're okay, or I'm okay, you're not okay. I'm not okay, you may be okay, or neither one of us are okay. When both of you are okay, you tend to go through the process very smoothly. You talk to each other very easily. When neither one of you are engaged in the process, neither one of you are okay, it's chaos. You're facing away from each other. To expand that further, we're going to look at my self-assessment profiles. We used Uniquely You and we used Queendom as our self-assessment profile vehicles. In Uniquely You, my public personality is type I. This is what's expected of me. I'm out in public. It's not what I would do naturally. It's what I have to project to people. From a personal side, when I'm at home with family, friends, I'm a totally different person. Quieter, more sensitive, I would hope. I struggle with occasional self-doubt, but it's a totally different environment. Queendom kind of breaks it down into why I am the way I am. Queendom shows that I have excellent listening skills. I have fairly good assertiveness and insightfulness. I need to work on verbal expression. I need to be able to reach my subject, the people I'm talking to, a little bit easier. So that's an area I might want to work on. When you're looking at using that in a professional setting, my style is I'm a mediator. So I listen to people. Once I listen to what they have to say, I try to reframe it back to them. Then I listen again. Maybe they expand the subject through nexting. And then I clarify so that everybody in the room understands exactly what was said. In my personal world, that's a little differently. As opposed to the professional world where I'm working to clarify, a lot of times in my personal world, I'm more familiar with the people I'm dealing with. I still try to listen very well. I always clarify. We talk very directly and very bluntly about what the subject matter is. This is where my problems run into in my personal world. I tend to be more dictative. I tend to have a little problem with listening again. Sometimes it takes a little more work to expand the conversation. So that's kind of the difference between my private and my professional world. There's a couple of other things that go into that aspect. Number one would be familiarity. Number two, the subject matter. A lot of times when you're talking with family and friends, the subject matter is a little more personal, a little more difficult to get through. So let's look at the background of that. And let's look at the blend. When you add queendom, and you look at uniquely yours, and then you put that into the aspect of how I do my work. In mediation, expanding the conversation is critical. You cannot get to a good result without it. Utilizing the talker-listener complex allows you to dictate pace and attention, keeps people involved based on what Peterson teaches in his book. That evolved from turn-taking, something that we're supposed to learn from a very young age. The DISC process that is included in Carbonell identifies inliers and outliers. Inliers are your comfort zone. That's where you're very, very comfortable dealing with people. That's part of your profile. The outliers are things that you believe you do that don't show up in your personality profile. The positive aspects of my blend is an outgoing personality. The negative is I tend to go overboard at times. I overreact to negative feedback. But you have to work through that. Barriers to communication for me is failed perception. A lot of time I let my biases get in the way. I had to learn how not to be judgmental. I tended to not listen as well as I should, so I thought ahead and I let people hit me with hot points, the red flag words that really bothered me. To come to a solution for these problems, I had to learn to teach myself not to be judgmental. I had to seek my inner guidance from prayerful intervention. I had to really work hard on active listening. In the mediation world, I had to remember a lot of the time, this is not my process. This is the client's process. They need to control the outcome. And of course, avoid those red flag words by engaging in conversation with green flag words that enhance the conversation and make people feel comfortable. There's noise pollution in every conversation. A lot of the noise distractions come from the inside or the outside. Two for me is preformed opinions, those prejudgments, personal biases, cultural biases, any type of idea in your head that came before the conversation. Ritual listening, where you're not really engaged in listening, you're hearing, but you're not listening. And of course, outside interference, when people interfere or they interrupt, the phone rings, those are things you have to deal with. To overcome those, you have to learn how to create space. Internally, you need to suspend judgment. You need to verbalize your difficulty to the other party. You need to tell them, this is a problem for me. Let's take a break. Let's come back to it when I'm a little more comfortable. You have to create space. You have to treat everybody with respect, and you have to, above all else, isolate the conversation so those external things don't get in your way. Another thing you need to be aware of is you have to put together an action plan. For me, my personal action plan for interpersonal communication success starts with suspending judgment. I've mentioned that several times in the presentation. That leads to the ability to enhance active listening. Through active listening, you get enough information to reframe and allow people to be in the process. You lead them through to opening up by hemming and hawing, by letting them know in your nonverbal that, you know what, I'd like a little more information. Would you like to add a little to that? Then you clarify and support, which returns you back to suspending judgment. Purposeful prayer before every client meeting, reflective prayer after, seeking calm when you're working with clients, and mitigating conflict, not even allowing it to get into the room, or if it does get into the room, take a break and get it all calmed down. Those are all parts of my action plan. Everything starts for me, though, with my basic spirituality. I have to understand that I don't control the process. Everything that happens has the hand of God on it. We have to accept that. We advertise ourselves as Christian interventionists, Christian counselors, Christian mediators. So we go with exactly what the good Lord has taught us. And hopefully that is the end of my presentation today, and you've gotten something from it. Have a wonderful day.